I am Randy Robison here at lifetodaytv with Dr. Emerson Eggerichs, the author of Love and Respect. Thank you for being with us. I want to do something a little different, and before I do this, I need to make this disclaimer. And I've been married, I'm approaching my 20th wedding anniversary, not too far off. And my marriage right now is great. It's better, frankly, than it's ever been. I'm not too proud to say that there weren't some rough years in there. And you don't know this, but your principles in love and respect really opened my eyes to a lot of stuff in my own marriage that's really helped a lot. I have not read a lot of marriage books. I've thumbed through several and I've ignored many. Yours is the one that I really think everybody should read. Every guy should read this because it really makes things make sense. And for me, that's important. I have to understand. So with that disclaimer, I want to take the role of where I've felt a little bit in my life, but where I know a lot of men have been and are right now. And that's in the position of a miserable marriage. What do you say to a guy who's going, I don't have a good marriage. I am miserable. What do you say to him?
No, that's an excellent question, and many people feel that way, and men in particular. And I think in some ways we've contributed to that, those of us who are writing, because why is it that a guy like you, a godly guy, great family, cares about people, why would there be a disinterest, for instance, in reading a marriage book? That's because they're written to pink. They're written to females. And so then we have this disinterest, and then we hear somebody in a radio program or some pastor, and the exhortation is coming to men. And after a while, men get de-energized. They get a little discouraged. And so one of the answers to the question, why is there maybe a miserable feeling out there, I think in part we as leaders have contributed to that. It's not that the men are ill-willed, and it's not that they're indifferent to marriage. Look at how they conducted themselves during courtship. And there's nowhere in the Bible, and I was a pastor and taught the Word of God, and I used to think men were the reasons for the problems, and that they're miserable because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And they're 90% of the reason for the problem. And the Lord spoke to my heart in that inaudible way, where in my Word have I said that men are indifferent to marriage? And there isn't anywhere in Scripture. I mean, I saw it balanced. If he breaks the covenant in Malachi, the woman in Proverbs breaks the covenant. And I went back and forth, and it's pretty equal. So one of the things that I believe is contributing to this is that we've only spoken half the equation. Now, if you speak the truth, that's not the whole truth, the courts have said. You know, you speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. When we speak what's true, but it's not the whole truth in the court, you can mislead people. You know, did you break that man's head open, you know, with a shovel? I did not, Judge, I did not. Did you shoot him in the back of the head? Yes, I did that. You must tell the truth and the whole truth. Well, we've been telling the truth about love in the church, but it's not the whole truth according to the Apostle Paul. That other side of the equation is respect. The whole truth is respect, and that's been removed, and that's going to create misery in marriage if we don't understand that. So one of the things I want to say to guys is, okay, now that does justify the attitudes, but it does explain in part why you're feeling the way you are, and there's nothing wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with you. And the challenge for us is to let people know that. But hear it quickly, and then I'll let you ask another question. The love and respect message is based on Ephesians 5:33, which says a husband must love and a wife must respect. And that gets into a crazy cycle because when she feels unloved, she reacts in ways that feels disrespectful to the man. And that's going to make him feel miserable. And then when he feels disrespected, he ends up reacting in ways that feels unloving to her, and that's going to make her feel miserable. And what's sad is she's crying out for love, only to come across disrespectfully and doesn't understand why things get crazy. And he's crying out for honor and respect, but reacts in that way that feels unloving and can't figure out, though, why things are so crazy and why they're both so miserable. And I think it's good-willed people who are in that crazy cycle, and they don't have the knowledge because we've removed half of that from the marital radar screen. But I think part of it is this crazy cycle needs to be decoded. See, without love defensively, she reacts offensively without respect. And guys are saying, I'm sick and tired. You know, I'm sick and tired of the disrespect. I'm sick and tired of that offensive behavior. I'm sick and tired of the negativity. But the truth is, she's saying, I have a need that only you can meet. And I'm reacting this way because I expect you to decode that I need something that only you can meet. and it's actually a compliment.
Why can't women just say what they mean?
If you can bottle that, baby, we're going into business together.
I mean, really.
Because they assume that we get it, that they don't have to be direct on that because to them it's so obvious. By way of a flip side, do we kind of think that our wife should understand when we're hinting about our need for sexual intimacy? I mean, we're indirect, it's kind of obvious, but she doesn't pick up on it. So both of us have what we think are clear messages, but it comes across very indirectly to the other person. So the challenge then is coming to that point where I'm going to trust this woman has basic goodwill, even though she's stepping on my air hose, so to speak, and I'm choking out, that she's actually crying out for love and not trying to be disrespectful. And I could put the responsibility back on her to be clear in her communication, or I can take what's being said here, and I still do it with Sarah. I mean, I've been married since 1973 to Sarah, and we still get on that crazy cycle, and God is calling me to decode, because Sarah thinks she's obvious in what she's saying to me, and it should be obvious, but also I have to trust her heart, that she's not Hitler's distant cousin, that she's a good-willed woman who has a need that only I can meet. And I say the same thing to women. Many women get together in their pink huddles and talk about male behavior, and you all conclude the same thing about men, that they are unloving and they're insensitive. But did you say or do something prior to that that felt disrespectful to him? 85% of those who stonewall are men, and they'll pull back. Women don't stonewall typically in communication. They move toward the husband, although I think your mom and dad would be an exception to that. Your mother's a little bit more quiet. But generally the men pull back. Your dad's a communicator like I'm a communicator. So, but most men pull back. And of course it'd be easy as a woman to think you're miserable. This relationship isn't what I bought into. But he's not trying to be unloving. You see, without respect defensively, he reacts offensively without love. He's not trying to be unloving. He'd die for you if a burglar came into the house. He'd die for you. And Christ said, no greater love is a man than this, that he lay down his life for his friend. Jesus sees your husband as very loving. But if you conclude that your husband's unloving because of this offensive negative behavior, you're not going to decode rightly, and you're going to get miserable over something that's not true. And that's the key, being able to decode these things. And it's a personal discipline that we have to go through, particularly at those moments of conflict where none of us are happy.
So what am I supposed to do when my wife doesn't respect me? Love her anyway?
Well, that is a powerful, powerful point, and that's what we talk about in love and respect under the rewarded cycle. That ultimately, we who are Christ followers, God commands me to love Sarah, whether she's lovable or not, or whether she's respectable or not. And that's not easy, but God calls me to do that. And one of the points we make is ultimately it's not about Sarah. It's not about her deserving love or anything of the sort. Ultimately, I've got to love her because Christ commands me to, and being a man of honor, God expects me to do that. And in a sense, I look beyond Sarah's shoulder to Jesus, who says, you do it unto me, okay? But the beautiful thing is that when we choose to do that, and this is what's so powerful, if there's any degree of goodwill in one's wife, and it's a pretty severe judgment to say my spouse is ill-willed or evil-willed, it's the mother of your children, for instance, we have found that when you choose to put on love toward a woman who feels like she's dissing us, almost every woman softens and usually moves into confession. It's almost axiomatic. Well, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't. It's almost axiomatic, but you have to make that move to discover that. My dad didn't discover that for many years. He was a man with rage, and he didn't understand how quickly he could have Mom's spirit soften if he did the loving thing. But here's the deal. I'm not going to want to do the loving thing if I really think her goal is to show me contempt. Because one of the points I make is no husband feels fond feelings of love and affection in his heart toward a wife he thinks despises who he is as a human being. And that's what we feel at that moment. So what I have to conclude is that her goal? Did she get up early in the morning to diss me? Or is she really crying out for my love, but reacts in a way that feels disrespectful? So that's the challenge before us. And the same thing holds true for the wife. She has to come to a point where she concludes that this man is not trying to step on her air hose. He didn't get up early in the morning to think of ways to be unloving. It's that she probably said or did something prior to that that felt disrespectful. And she must not marginalize this. And this is one of the things we're up against, Randy, is that that's been marginalized as insignificant by the culture. It's all about a man's ego. In fact, women will say, I don't feel any respect for him. It'd be hypocritical for me to show it when I don't feel it. He's not superior to me. I'm not inferior to him. I'm not going to be treated like a doormat. He hasn't earned it. He doesn't deserve it. I'm not going to feed his ego. You really want me to fear his dominance, and I'm not going to subject myself to emotional abuse. But other than these things, Dr. Emerson, I'm really open to hearing what you have to say about this. And I always say to women, Randy, How many of you have sons? And most everyone raises their hand. Your sweet daughter-in-law is going to have that attitude toward your baby boy if we don't change the way we're doing marriage. And she's not going to be a mean-spirited person. She will be the epitome of sweetness. But when she feels unloved, she reacts in ways that feels hugely disrespectful to the son or to the husband. And if she marginalizes respect as an issue that really shouldn't even matter, it's all about his ego, she's going to misunderstand something that's huge.
I appreciate what you do and your whole message. I really think if every married person, every potentially married person can absorb the truth that you're putting out there, it will really revolutionize the way marriage is done in a great way. Thank you for being with us. I appreciate you taking the time to talk.
Well, thank you. And we're excited. I mean, not only can they go to our website, Love and Respect, but one of the things that we're really excited about, Randy, is we have this Valentine's Day thrust coming up where we're going to be at Second Baptist Houston, Dr. Ed Young, and we're re-videotaping our whole 7-hour conference. And we unfold why we negatively react to each other, which is the crazy cycle. How do you motivate another person? That's the energizing cycle. And what do you do when your spouse isn't responding, which is the rewarded cycle? And we're going to unpack that. And then we're launching this huge video conference thing across America, and people can find out about that if they'd like to host one in their church. We would be thrilled because we believe, just like you do, if men in particular, in fact, my wife wants to subtitle our conference, the conference that men want to attend. And if men hear this, they say, wow, you put a voice and vocabulary to what I feel, you've connected the dots. And women are saying, why hasn't anyone told us this? And we're finding tremendous healing. So I'm grateful for your invitation.
How does someone keep up with that?
Go to the Love and Respect, LOVEANDRESPECT.com, and we'll have information there about that as well as other events that we're doing, live conferences.
Excellent. Thanks again for being with us. Don't miss Dr. Emerson Eggerichs on Life Today.